Okay, finally got around to making the settings video. A lot of people have been asking about it. Um, I wasn't even going to bother making it last year because they were constantly changing things, and then I didn't want a video to be immediately rendered useless with some of the information because of things that changed multiple times. So I was going to wait. Then I ended up taking a break. Recently came back. Looks like it's a good spot. They fixed a lot of the things that were wrong. So I figured I'd just do it now, get it out of the way. Gameplay, we don't need to worry about this because it just takes things from all of this and dumps it in. So we'll go to HUD. HUD padding, I put it on 100. I think default is 0. You want to move the mini map in as far as it can go. You want to be able to keep your eye on it without having to look all the way down to the bottom left of your screen. You want to know what's going on around you, and that's the best way to have it close to the center of your screen as you can. And you should always be focusing on the center of your screen anyway, so it's just going to make it more convenient and better and more consistent for you. The HUD icons. Ender's had a great video on this a couple months ago on the settings, so I'll link that in the description. But the basic gist of it, you want to have your zoomed icons opacity at 0. You want them out of your way. If you're ADSing, you're either looking for enemies or you're in a gunfight. You don't want enemies. Oh, sorry. You don't want down teammates on other sides of buildings, flag icons getting in your way when you're either looking for an enemy or shooting at an enemy. I had up mine from 0 to 30 because I was running into an issue where I would ADS, icons would disappear. I would come out of ADS, icons wouldn't show up. I couldn't see teammates that were dead on the ground, so I had no idea what was going on with them without looking at the mini map, and I wasn't about to do that, so I had upped them. It's still not terrible at 30. It's pretty faint, so it works for me. I don't know if it was a bug, if they fixed it, or if that's just the way it was going to work, but I haven't tested it since. Minimap size, you can't make it any bigger than what it is. So the on foot, I just run it at 160. If you go to 250 or 400, it'll zoom out a little bit too much for my liking. I want to know, be able to pinpoint where enemies are when they show up on the minimap, and the best way to do that is to have it at 160. Crosshair projection, it's like a dynamic crosshair projection with it on. It means whatever way you're moving, the crosshair will kind of move a little bit with you. It'll like kind of hover around and float. I don't like that. I want it static in the center of my screen at all times, so I have it off. I used to mess with these colors, but um, the visibility in this game sucks, so I felt like it was kind of hindering me more than helping. So I just put everything back to default. I tried making this a deep red, and I felt like that actually made things harder for some reason. So I just put everything back. So graphics, I'm on PS5 Pro, but even on the regular PS5, I recommend performance. Anything over 60 hertz is going to give you better input delay, which is always a good thing. And then if you have a monitor or TV that supports VRR, you can get a lot smoother screen when playing the game. Everything over 60 is just going to make it that much better. So that's what I recommend. Field of view, I go between 110, 113, depending on what I'm doing. I really wouldn't go below 100, and then at 120 for me, I feel like it's too much. The visibility already sucks, and that's just gonna make it worse for me to notice enemies. So I kind of hover around there, 110, 113. Weapon field of view, I run it wide. It's not really a big deal, but I don't like it, the gun too big on my screen. I kind of like it out of the way and smaller, so I leave it on wide. Motion blurs, turn that off. Camera shake, as low as it can go. Reduce sprint camera bobbing, I turn that on because that's going to help reduce that. And then I turn these off. Audio, you just got to placebo yourself into believing whatever you set here is the perfect settings. It's not. The audio as of this video is trash, so There's no secret here. Like, there's nothing. Just you can pick whatever you want. It's gonna probably sound the same. The tank will drive right behind you, and you'll have no idea. The enemy tank. The teammate tanks. Oh no, you can hear those across the map, but the enemy tanks, nope. So now the part that everybody is here for, mapping. I aim with L1, shoot with R1. That's just the way I've done it. So I go through, I find whatever is L1, L2, R1, R2, and I just flip them. So it's ping and then grenade. I also swap the melee with crouch and slide. I don't ever melee really ever, so that can go on circle and just be out of my way. I want to be able to slide while aiming, diving, crouching while aiming. So you want to have your thumb on the stick at all times while you're doing those to be way more consistent than trying to take it off to hit circle. Feel free to map them to other, buttons like the back triggers. Maybe you just want to throw grenade on circle or something, and it's whatever. But you never want to have to take your thumb off your aiming stick to do a slide, especially because of how good it is in this game for slide jumping and all that. I also mapped melee to slide up on my touchpad on my DualSense Edge, but the DualSense has it as well. It's more consistent than trying to hold circles. Sometimes I just end up stabbing the air, and then I have to try to hold it again to take the knife out to run, because you get a little bit of a speed increase when running with a knife. I think it works with defibrillators too, so it probably works with other gadgets. I just prefer the knife, so I swipe up, and then I take the knife out. If you like to snipe, you can set your rangefinder to zeroing. You can bind this to your, in my case, it would be L1 for ADS. And same thing with the steady scope. So that way, immediately when you ADS, you're steadying your scope and you're setting your rangefinder. If you do that, me, I don't have it set because I never snipe. It's not my thing. That's it for there. Control settings. If you've seen my Battlefield 1 settings video, some things are going to be similar. In this case, 40 to 60 is still what I recommend. I wouldn't really go lower or any higher than either of those. So a lot of settings are a trade-off system. So you go to one extreme or the other, you're trading one thing for something else. If you go low, you're trading being able to not feel clunky and to have speed while looking around. But you trade that for having better aimed accuracy at range. And then if you go towards the higher end of settings, you're trading being able to move around and not feel clunky to having less aimed accuracy at range because of the sensitivity and tracking. You'll have better tracking with a lower sensitivity at range compared to a higher one. Vertical aim ratio, it used to be 48. It got moved to 56 because a 16 by 9 screen, 9 divided by 16 is 0.56. Instead of saying that, why don't we just talk about what vertical aim ratio actually does so people understand it? It's basically, it's going to lower the sensitivity of your camera that when you look up and down. So the higher this number, the faster up and down you're going to look. And it all depends on your sensitivity. If this was at 100, this would be a lot faster looking up and down than it is right now at 50. PC, both of these values are at 100. Obviously, it's a mouse. Controllers aren't mice, so you can go to 56, you can do 48, you can do 45. I really wouldn't go too low, and I wouldn't really go too high with it because you'll lose consistency, in my opinion. This is grayed out anyway because I'm running uniform infantry aiming. I run a zero coefficient. Struth Gaming a couple months ago had a great video on it between 178 and 0. I'll go ahead and link that in the description. There is a caveat. He did not do any of the testing with the ADS sensitivity below 100, which is what it normally is at. But I've done some quick testing. I mean, obviously this isn't really like a method that you would want to say, oh yeah, that'll be perfect. But this is a one-time zoom. This is about the middle of the floor. So the amount I have to move this stick to try to get to one edge or the other inside that square, you double the distance, but you double the zoom. So it's about the same. Now the problem with zero, if the so it tries to keep its true focal length scaling, I believe. But if you go with a let's say a 5x zoom scope, up close, like you're pretty slow. Now you shouldn't be using a 5x zoom scope when you're doing CQC, but let's say we'll move this up to 178. 133 used to be default. They moved it to 178 because 16 divided by 9 is 1.77. But again, it's, find what works. I guess they do 178. So now I clearly have more sensitivity in my ADS. And that's basically what it's going to do. The higher you go with that number, the more ADS sensitivity you're going to have. I run 0. I really don't go too high with the magnification, so maybe I'm not seeing the detrimental effects of having it too low. And if I was, I'd probably just up it. But I like it at 0, and that's where I run it. The aim assists, they're not broken anymore, so I just keep them at 100. These curves, you can see these curves here. They're all pretty similar. They're not the same, but they're pretty similar. This one is weird. And then this one is kind of similar to the 5 on the top. Linear, you'll never be, in my opinion, you'll never be as consistent as you would be running one of these curves with linear. It's just too much raw input for a controller, in my opinion. You end up going with acceleration, which we'll get to in a minute, and you'll understand what I'm talking about with the acceleration when we hit linear. I haven't tried dynamic, but I'm not too worried about it. I don't really care, so I just leave it on standard. Again, the curve, it is what it is. So acceleration, imagine seeing that curve right there. The more you move your stick in any direction, the more that curve lights up until you reach the end. With aim acceleration, you're going to move the stick, but it's going to lag behind. It wouldn't match where you should be on that curve right away because there's going to be acceleration. So I will show you just an exaggerated version. I'll have it on 100. So I'm at 50 cents. I'm at 100 acceleration. So it's going to really slow down my sensitivity. Again, so people on linear, if they're running acceleration, it's slowing down your sensitivity, but it's going to do this regardless of what curve you're using. So let's say you like your acceleration on because you feel like you can, here's a target here, target there, and you're just going between them. That's fine. I mean, if that's all it was, that'd be great. The problem is when you go to turn, you see how that just snapped? You see it? You can see it. So what I don't like is you start out and it's slow in the turn, and then it ramps up and accelerates to your max sense. So in my case, it would ramp up to whatever 50 would be, how fast that would be with the stick deflected all the way. I don't like that. It's inconsistent. Sure, it might help you up close, get onto enemies, but a better way to do that would be to turn acceleration off and then go to your settings, your infantry aim sense, and then just lower it. Because now the acceleration's off, this is how fast 50 is. But, you get everything you want. You don't have a problem with the acceleration. You can kind of predict where you're going to be, where you're going to go. When you see you're getting shot at, you can get to that area quick. You don't have to worry about some kind of acceleration just hindering it, making you either stop too soon or overshoot. So that's what I would recommend, is just lower your your sensitivity before you start putting acceleration into your settings. Double tap forward to sprint. That's like the new Call of Duty thing. I wouldn't recommend using it. Double tap crouch for sprint slide. Sometimes I try to slide and it doesn't. He just crouches, and it's always when I need it, so I die. Turning that on is going to just exponentially increase the amount of times the slide doesn't work when you try to double tap, so I would just leave it off. Infantry zoom aim sense, I run at 70. When you use uniform infantry aiming, 100 is going to be, I believe it will be your ADS. So this sense will equal, sorry, your hip sense will equal your ADS sense. Obviously not, because I'm running 0 and I have a 5 times zoom. So this is clearly slower. It's going to be slower. But a 1 time zoom will equal your hip fire sense. And then it'll slowly lower the sensitivities from there. Obviously, you get more, you get less sensitivity at the higher zoom magnifications with 0 coefficient than you do with 133 or 178. You can turn this off. Oh, actually, one more thing. So when you're running uniform infantry aiming, you never want to touch these because it's using a procedural aim rate and a algorithm to adjust your aim sensitivities depending on the magnification, and it will affect it. It does. It should be grayed out or disappeared if you're running UIA, because it will affect, as you can see right here. That's how slow it's moving now. So if you're going through and you're touching all of your sensitivities in there, and it's trying to use the algorithm, you're messing everything up pretty much. So the best thing to do, if you feel like you want to start adjusting those, is to turn UIA off, which I'll show you now. So you turn it off here, and then I would recommend leaving this at 100 or even 110, because so you have your 50 cents. So it's obviously slower. So with UIA off and 100 as your zoom sense, it will not be equal. It will be slower. So the higher the zoom magnification you go, even the more slower it will be compared to running it with UIA or any of the coefficients with that. So then you would normally go through, depending on if you run all these zooms, you go ahead and do it, or if you just run up to a 5 times zoom, you never go higher, whatever. You would come in here or into a lobby, and then you would try to fine tune each individual sensitivity to your liking while using this one. I would pretty much just leave that at 100 and then just adjust these at that point. But that's preference. There's no wrong way. Like, I'm not saying this is a terrible way to do it. You can do it that way too if you want. You can fine tune it to what you want instead of letting the algorithm take care of it. And lastly, the best thing I found to finding the right ADS sensitivity is to try to figure out what your 360, how many seconds it takes you to do a 360, and then how many seconds it takes you to do your 360 in ADS, and then add. What you want to do is you want to add about 1 second, 1.5, maybe even 2 seconds to this. So this is about a 2 second This is about a 2-second 360. And this is almost a 3-second ADS 360. So that's in a good spot. I find that it's not too fast to where you can't acquire targets at range or you have trouble tracking them at range, but it's not too slow to where targets up close, they can get by you and break your camera and your ADS is too slow. So with that, we shall continue. I prioritize interact. It makes it easier to grab teammates that are down to heal them, to interact with. You throw the med bag down and you can pick it back up instead of having to hold your interact button. That's just what I prefer. It's preference though. Mount type, if you are a bipod rat, go for it, but I would turn this off because if you're behind cover, a car, a wall, something that you can mount to, and you go to ADS at an enemy, you're going to launch forward and stick to it, probably end up dead from it. So I would turn that off. I used to run side and up, but peeking to the side in this game kind of angles it. It's not like it doesn't reflect like the up and down that you do. I find it too inconsistent, so I turn it off. The up only, it's fine. It's like crouch stand, crouch stand, crouch stand is how that kind of acts, so it's good. I'll run up only. Flick look, it's a gimmick. Don't do it. Ground transport, aircraft, helicopter, gunner. I don't use any of these, so these are all default. So if you came here looking for gunner settings, I'm sorry, I don't have any. Vibration, personal preference. Some people say turn it off. I mean, it's not like you're fighting to hold on to the controller while it vibrates, so I think you're good. It's more of a preference thing. Adaptive triggers, I wouldn't use because you're not gonna be as fast. It's gonna have resistance in the triggers, and it's for immersion. That's for the people that go like 1 in 20. You don't want to be that guy, so don't do that. Dead zones, preference to a point. I run 3 because I have TMR sticks, but that really doesn't, it's whatever you like. As long as it doesn't move without you touching it. You don't want drift without you touching it. So take care of the drift. You up the dead zone one by one until you get rid of that if the analog stick was moving. So you can start at 0 and go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until you're not touching the controller and your character is not moving. So when you get to that point, in this case for me at 3, there's 2 ways you can calibrate your sticks. So the first one is right now, obviously there's no drift. All analog sticks have a little bit of play in them, a little wiggle, and that's not the same as actually deflecting the stick, compressing the spring, and everything like that. You're just wiggling it like I'm doing right now, and you can see how it's moving, but I'm not actually deflecting the stick in any way. I'm just wiggling it up and down, left and right, kind of in a circle a little bit. It's just that play that all analog sticks have. So you can opt to have that in there. Makes it a little more sensitive, but if you just happen to see that, if you just if your thumb just pushes, let's say you're in a gunfight with a guy over there and your thumb just was leaning on that right analog stick and you wiggled it, and now it just came off that way. Or same thing, I can go this way. It came off. So that takes a little more fine motor skills to keep from happening, or you need to be paying attention. Or you can do it the safer way, which I'll show now. You would go one by one until you would wiggle the stick and you wouldn't get any movement. I'm just going to put it at 10 because I know it's not going to happen at 10 to save time of trying to go through the numbers, but I bet it'd probably be around 6 or 7. So right now I'm wiggling the stick, the little play it has, and it's not moving. This is probably the safer bet for most people because now you're taking out of any kind of bad habits you might have. You're not letting that affect it in this case. So I would recommend doing both of those. I would try both because why not? Figure out, maybe you like it a little more sensitive. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're, I could have got that guy, but I just went off target because of the sensitivity. It's a little too sensitive for me. So figure out what you like with that. And then axial dead zones. So right now I have them at 0. That's how I like it. You can see it's not a consistent 360 circle. The up and down, you know, it's not perfect because at 0 you don't have any dead zones on your horizontal axis for when you go up and down while trying to move left and right. So we will turn the axial dead zone to demonstrate all the way up to 30. It is way less it is way less detrimental than it was in the previous Battlefield games. It's actually not terrible even at 30. Basically what this is, you have your dead zone on the vertical, any vertical part of your horizontal stick movement. So you're moving to the right. If you want to go up, there would be a little bit of a vertical dead zone or down before it actually started to move. You can tell the up and down is a lot more, you know, it's following that line right here pretty good. So it's taking it's putting a dead zone in so that you're not just the raw input of wherever the stick is where you're going to go. So when you spin, you know, I'm still on that track right there without really trying to keep from. So if you're somebody that you're here and you go to turn around and you're up here, or you go to turn around and you're down here, maybe turn it up, see if it helps out. Like I said, 30 doesn't seem too terrible, but I personally wouldn't run it at 30. But you can try 30 if you're really struggling to, you know, keep your crosshair where you want it on your screen. Max input thresholds. Some people say turn it down. There's really no reason to turn it down. I want to be able to fine tune the peaks around, you know, a cover like this. I don't want, it'll be very sensitive because what it's doing is you're just compressing your, those curves we looked at earlier. You're just compressing it. So people will say, oh, I just throw it on, you know, I'll just put it whatever. So now I only have to move my stick about 63% to hit max speed. So I barely have to move the stick. And now look how, like, it's a lot more sensitive. You don't have, you know, I'm ending up peaking a lot more than I would normally want to because the stick is so sensitive. So I don't recommend using that. Other people say, oh, you know, the aim assist. Well, you can see I have no rotational aim assist. This isn't Call of Duty. The way you get rotational aim assist is watch what happens when I move. I'm going to strafe, and there's obviously no rotational aim assist, but when I start touching the aiming stick, now we have the rotational aim assist. So I would just leave it at 100, and then you definitely don't want to mess with the threshold of your right stick because you're going to compress your aiming stick, so now it's going to be all over the place. You're going to have all this dead space after about 60-something% wherever it was set to where it's not going to accelerate anymore. So you're hitting your curve you're maxing out your curve when you hit 63% of stick deflection. So it's going to be way too sensitive. And I believe that is it. So I would go ahead, take what I said, try to customize it for yourself, figure out what you like, what works for your play style, what feels good for you. you can copy this and whatever, but I would always try to fine tune it for how you like to play, your play style, and that sort of thing. All right, hope that helps. If I forgot anything, go ahead, leave a comment down below. I'll answer it. I don't think I forgot anything that I wanted to get said in this video. Sorry, it's it's like 4 a.m. right now. I'm doing this, so I'm kind of tired. So just leave me a message down below, comment if I missed something or you had a question on something. All right, thanks.